Good morning or afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1:02. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for waiting on me for the last 2 minutes as I made sure that we had everything we needed taken care of. I am recording this Zoom so that if any of our colleagues were unable to attend, they can watch the video. I will put this video of our conversation on the curriculum website, and I will also, that's probably the best place for it, I'll put it on the curriculum website. So this will be hopefully a fairly painless meeting for us today. I really just want to run through, and I'm sorry I'm out of breath. I just did 2 flights of stairs right before I sat down, so apologize while I catch my breath. I just want to make sure that the conversations you had with your department meetings, your department chairs know a ton about these curriculum documents. I am so thoroughly impressed with our department chairs. They are amazing, and we got together in July and worked so hard, and the curriculum teams with them, it's outstanding work, and I hope that you all agree with my assessment of them and their work. But to support the department chairs, I wanted us to quickly go through all of these layers and really make sure that we're all on the same page. So I'm going to share my screen. Is there? I have made Mr. Shearer the co-host of this presentation so that he can keep an eye on the chat room and make sure that we're all on the same page with our conversation. I will not be watching the chat room, but Mr. Shearer will. Okay. So please make sure that if you have a question that you ask it in the chat. At the end of this, I will go back through chat with Mr. Shearer and make sure that if there are any questions I did not cover while we were talking, then we'll address them then, because a lot of the questions you ask might be something that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this time. And what you should be seeing is do you see the curriculum website? Mr. Shearer, is that what you see?
No, we see a text to Maggie.
Well, that's not what you want. You don't need to see me reaching out to my secretary. So let's try this again. Shouldn't be this hard to share a screen. Is that still not right? Got it that time?
Yeah, that's good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So before we get started, in your department chair meetings yesterday, we talked about what the cross-district virtual norms could potentially be. And so as we had those conversations, what I asked the department chairs to do was in your minutes at the end of your meeting that you submit to me, that they would include any feedback you had on the virtual norms. And so I will compile all that feedback. I have not had a chance to do that yet this morning, but I do want us to know that those virtual norms, we'll just have them apply for this meeting in that we'll just, everyone stays muted unless you're talking, and that if you need to talk, go ahead and either like raise your hand, that virtual hand raising thing, or just put a message in to the chat feature for Mr. Shearer. And he will let me know if there's something that immediately needs to be discussed at that exact second. And that for today's purposes, the active listening screen presence, you can have a closed screen, but this video will serve as everyone's documentation that we all do know how to read our curriculum documents. Is that fair to say? Okay, hearing no objections, we're gonna go on. So, the main thing that we want to do is just make sure that everyone knows how to maneuver through the curriculum website and through your curriculum documents. Because we do have new hires to our district, and welcome. We're so glad you're here. We also have people who are new to grade levels. One of the things that the curriculum chair teams, led by their department chairs, were working on this summer, and the instructional coaches came behind and supported with a great deal of wonderfulness, the cleaning up of all of our curriculum documents so that they are easy to read, maneuver, and that there is some uniformity among them. Especially important for those of us who have changed grades. Maybe we're still in elementary, but we moved from, say, 4th grade to 5th grade. And so the uniformity of documents makes that transition so much easier. So on the curriculum website, all you have to do to get to your curriculum is go maneuver to the button that says Elementary Curriculum. As I click that, it moves us to the elementary curriculum pages. We are going to go to 4th grade just because my mouse is close to it. So we're going to click on 4th grade. Every grade levels looks very similar. The only grade level that looks a little bit different is kindergarten, but ultimately they all look just like this. If you haven't looked through the other grades, please feel free to do so at your convenience. On the grade level page, you see that there is a button that takes you back to the landing page we were just on called the Elementary Home, and then a blue button right in the middle that says Curriculum Overview Year-Long Pacing Guide. That button takes you to what we call the Overview Pacing, or the calendar, sometimes known as the Calendar Pacing Guide. This document shows you all of your contents in one glance. Eventually, over the next couple of years, all of these items in all of these subjects will be hot linked straight to the unit of study to which they belong. But at this point, at least we do have a landing place for you to see the pacing of all of your units of study for all of your subjects. They are by quarter. If you notice at the bottom of the page, it says Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. The new calendar just was approved by the school board, and so department chairs and curriculum teams, if they have not already adjusted the pacing guide to meet the new calendar, they are going to be doing so soon. You can see down the left column side that every single week of the entire school year is mapped out for you, and the quarters are then reflected on these guides. Hopefully you find that layout to be user-friendly, and if you ever have a question about how units go together, this is a nice place to see where your reading and writing units align and where your social studies units could be woven into your ELA instruction, for example. Okay, so that is your curriculum overview document. This document will be extremely important for you as you begin building your unit modules within Canvas, making sure that you all stay on the same pace. I know that your department chair reinforced that to you in your department meeting yesterday, but I do want to reiterate as their support, as their backing, because we are living bilaterally between virtual and in-person blended, Once those children start coming back on campus, whether they are distance or blended, it is important that they are getting the same instruction, especially knowing that some of our students may be coming back to a blended model later this year in January, and we will want to make sure that they come right back into the classroom seamlessly. So staying together on pace is going to be extremely important in your bi-weekly or every other week recurring department meetings. That does not mean you're all teaching the exact same lesson on the exact same day in the exact same way. Okay? But that does mean you're staying together for the most part. And your conversations with each other should be focused on getting feedback from your students, from parents, and from each other, as well as your administration on how the pacing is going, how the documents are supportive or what's not needed for them, how your resources are supported and what else is needed. And that way you can make adjustments to your teaching and your pedagogy on an ongoing basis in support with each other. Okay. Another button on this page are then your units of study, your curriculum maps. The units of study, and I'm just going to pick on ELA. I'm going to click the ELA units of study. This will bring you to the landing page, and most every grade levels units of study are paced exactly the same way, where you see the units are at the bottom, Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3. In ELA, you might see reading and writing blended together in some grade levels if they chose to weave being a writer straight into their reading instruction and created one unit, cohesive unit. Otherwise, what you will see is a reading Unit 1 and a writing Unit 1. Okay, these unit maps have the following information on them. When you look on the unit map, you'll see the grade level and the time frame. That's how long it is expected for this unit to last. That should be the same reflection you see on your overview pacing calendar. You see the big ideas and essential questions. As you are teaching your units of instruction, for example, Unit 1, the big ideas are what the students should naturally be able to address by the end of that unit. That is really the overarching teaching of that unit. The essential questions are the questions you might pose as you're moving through the unit that relate to the lessons you're teaching that eventually should help children answer those big ideas. Okay. You do not have to specifically ask your students to be able to name the big ideas, but being able to answer those essential questions should guide your students towards the big ideas of the unit. The academic vocabulary are the words that your team has decided are words that should be woven directly into instruction with students, and words students should be able to use in their conversations with you and each other throughout that unit. Those are the words that would be woven into the proficiency scales as part of the approaching of the standard for that, any of your priority standards. As we move further down the document, you'll see a middle section called the MLS or the GLEs. These are your grade level expectations for the Missouri Learning Standards. In here, you will see these are the appropriate standards that are addressed in that unit of study. The standards that are in blue ink are the priority standards. Those are the standards that you will be reporting out to your students and parents in each grading period. The standards that are in black ink are called supporting standards, and they are the standards that support the instruction of the priority standards. As you move down, you will see a section called the Grandview C4 Proficiency Scales. This is a link to these scales that will help you with the conversations with students about what it takes to approach, meet, or exceed each of the priority standards for that unit. Inside of this document, and I'm going to go ahead and open this document. Inside this document, you will find at the bottom tabs for each of the priority standards. You can see that in this grade level in particular, they are also working on creating student-facing versions of the proficiency scales. That is still a work in progress, as you can imagine. So if we think about a priority standard that needs to have a proficiency scale written, you can see that what it takes to meet the standard, exceed, or approach the standard. And they will start adding in more as we continue to work through this process, but they'll be adding in what it could look like as a student exemplar, what are some teaching aids that might help you under the additional notes, which quarters these standards are reported in, what are the item specifications, some sample stems, and some linked assessments. It's going to be a beautiful process, but we first have to start with just the language of the descriptions first. And so in September, your department chairs and curriculum authors will lead you through a tuning protocol. We are not doing this right away because you have enough to think and learn and work through at the moment without fine-tuning the proficiency scales at this point. But in the month of September, during one of your recurring department meetings, your department chair and curriculum teams will help you with the tuning protocol for your proficiency scales of your priority standards. Going back to the curriculum map, you can see that on the left are district resources, and on the right would be additional resources. So I'm going to go to one of the maps that would have some essential standards. Let's try maybe math. So you can see here at the bottom underneath the proficiency scales, when we get down to resources, you can see district resources that are at your availability. Then you'll also notice on the right-hand side towards the bottom, if there were essential standards that were identified from the previous grade that would meet this unit's instruction, as we talked yesterday during the professional development video on essential standards and how they relate to the priority standards and how they relate to the proficiency scales. So in that just right moment of instruction, these are the grade level prior, the essential standards from their grade level that could support the instruction that is necessary for students to access the standards of this unit. And so within here, you can see, like, this is a 4th grade math unit, but you can see where some 3rd grade essential standards are in support of instruction that's going to happen in 4th grade math during this unit. And they also tell you exactly where to go in order to find some sample lessons if your students need scaffolding in that standard. Okay. You will also notice that on the left side, where it has the performance, summative and formative performance assessments, if for the standard item specifications of the summative assessments, your teams have gone through and itemized every item on the assessment for each unit and told you for every question on that test which Missouri Learning Standard that item is addressing and whether it is a approaching, meeting, or exceeding level question. That way, when you are scoring students' work, and I'm certain I am only reinforcing what the chair has told you, when an item is an exceeding item on the assessment, it would not count against a student's score on that assessment. However, it could be used to help you give a child an exceeding score. So we would not penalize students for not be exceeding a standard, but we would be able to then have viable evidence for saying that a child is exceeding the standard for their grade level. If a child is not meeting, if they're getting the meetings wrong and they're only getting the approachings correct, that tells you where they are in their ability to meet the standards. And all of that should support the PD you watched. So as we go back through them, those are where you find your units of study and where the proficiency scales and the item analysis documents are found in each of your units of study. Several grade levels are wanting to really start digging into science. 2 summers ago, there was a team that was assembled and they worked with a woman named Debbie Correll from the RPDC. And she is a science expert with the Regional Professional Development Center. She worked with a team from our district to rework all of our science curriculum maps so that they were in line with the NGSS standards and aligned all of the possible Project Lead the Way units that are available and any of the defined learning units that at the time were available. We are able to use some of your cross-district recurring department meetings to go back through defined learning. This is a module that you may have already watched on defined learning this morning. And you can see that defined learning has added an entire section on remote learning and on making projects that would make remote learning more engaging and authentically aligned to the Missouri standards. And so we can weave those into curriculum maps through the work of your department chairs and curriculum teams. Defined learning is also reviewing our curriculum maps in all of our subjects from kindergarten through 12th grade, and they are helping us also with the alignment of the units projects that they provide to see where they could naturally fit in our units. So we look forward to getting that from them as well. We do not have all of the Project Lead the Way modules that are available. We have not physically purchased and trained on all of them, but just as a point, they are available for us to get more on. However, while we are in distance and blended learning, Project Lead the Way at the elementary level could be more difficult. So we are recommending that you weave your science instruction in through your ELA instruction, or make sure that you're also accessing defined learning as much as possible, because those science lessons are able to be done virtually. Also on your curriculum page of the website, there is an arrow that says department information, and that arrow will take you directly to the folder for your department so that you can see what your department chair is putting in for you as far as agendas on the day before each of your bi-weekly department meetings, any slides or handouts that he also will have for you, or she. I'm just saying he because Travis is on the screen. Going back then to the curriculum website, under the professional development and assessment tabs are where you can find a lot of the information that you learned about yesterday about essential priority standards and about the proficiency scales. And also, they have a lot of other information in there about like your benchmark assessment system and iReady. There will be more information added to those tabs as well. And ultimately, this is where you're going to go when you get into Canvas. So if I'm a 4th grade teacher and I am working on my Canvas account, when I am creating the modules within my Canvas classroom, I want to use each one of my units of study as a module. So for example, if I'm a 4th grade teacher and I see 4th grade unit 1, this curriculum map for 4th grade math unit 1 could be my module 1 for math. And I might call it, my first module in there could very well be number sense. And that would be the module that I would be creating for my students. Underneath that module for number sense, I would then create the page that would then show underneath my first unit. That page could include the lessons that I wish to teach, links to the instruction for students, the content that I want them to know, the videos that I want to show. Underneath that, maybe I would add some assignments that I could attach to that page. I could also have links to outside items, Google Docs for students to complete, items like that, maybe Edulastic links, things like that. Underneath that, I could also include a discussion. That could be a discussion board that is linked directly through that module 1. It could also include a live link through Zoom. And if you've been doing your Canvas lessons, you've noticed that Zoom syncs directly to your classroom and directly to each unit. So you could create a live Zoom that is recorded so that students maybe who were unavailable to watch that meeting of that lesson live could then asynchronistically go back and watch it. You could then create a discussion board around the Zoom that you hosted for students to complete after, either during or after that discussion, where you post them questions for them to continue that conversation of learning. Also on that same module, you could add quizzes. They can be built-in quizzes directly into Canvas, or they can be externally linked to a third party. There are also a ton of those external tools that you could add for each of your unit modules. So when we talk about the need for the curriculum map to be followed, this is exactly how all of you will stay in unison with making sure that we're all in about the same place at about the same time. That does not mean you are all teaching the exact same lesson on the exact same day in the exact same way. You are still the professional in your classroom. So, but we do want you then to actively stay engaged with each other during your department meetings, giving each other feedback on what your students said to you in feedback, what parents gave you as far as feedback each week, and what you guys are giving each other as feedback about the pace, the resources, and the lessons that you're creating and the activities that you're doing. That is really a quick and fast overview of all of these documents and how they all fit together and support your work within Canvas. I am going to stop talking for just a moment about those and just let you know that we are working very hard on Eureka Online, the digital suite. It is our understanding that the digital suite for Eureka is now available for classroom teachers, but the website would be digital. It has changed from last year, and we just found that out today. They are in the process of upgrading their system, and it is digital.greatminds.org. You should be able to use Clever to access your site. You might also be able to use your Google. So when you go to digital.greatminds.org, you would be able to have the choice between a Google sign-on or a Clever sign-on. And whichever one works for you, please give that a try. The problem they are still facing, which is why I have not sent this information out to you publicly yet, is right now all they have loaded for every classroom teacher is second grade resources. That's not helpful unless you're a second grade teacher. So the workaround for this is your old digital suite, which was just greatminds.org, is still open. However, you may have to create yourself one of those free trial accounts if your original login didn't work. Please use your Grandview email credentials to create yourself a trial account under greatminds.org. That will still give you access to all of the digital materials on the navigation bar, and it will give you for all the grade levels, not just your own. And that will be open to you for at least 30 days and will then sync once they get the digital.greatminds.org up and running. I hope that is supportive to you when you're starting to plan for math. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat. Okay. I don't see any questions to address at this point, so it feels like then you all feel very confident then, or at least confident enough to keep working through the professional development modules on Canvas and on the tools that were purchased to support your work within Canvas, and also then the curriculum documents that support your lesson planning. And so the question I'm getting, and three of you have now asked me the same question, is if the Canvas modules in math should match up with the Eureka modules. Your units of study should match the Eureka modules. So the answer would be yes. If I'm not understanding that question, please ask me in a different way so that I can better address your question.
Hey Liz, just to clarify on mine. So one of the things we've kind of talked about is maybe making our modules like days of the week to make it easier for students to follow through. Can we do that as long as we're sticking with the pacing guide and the
Yes.
units?
Yes. Yes. So the Eureka lesson a day does not have to be what you would traditionally say is page 1, page 2, right? So it may be very difficult for our students to do a Eureka lesson a day. So maybe if you've talked with your principal and your team, it's possible that you restructure, maybe you teach math, for example, 3 times a week, but you're covering more ground in that lesson so that you're not necessarily doing a Eureka lesson a day. Stay focused on your priority standards and essential standards heavily. Did that answer the question? Good. Did that lower levels of concern? Good. I'm seeing lots of smiles and thumbs. Love that. Anything else? I love smiles and thumbs, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I am here for you. Mr. Shearer is here for you. Most importantly, your department chairs and your building principals are here for you. You are not alone, and you are doing a fantastic job. I want you to know that a lot of districts all around us are in the exact same boat we are. What I hope you are feeling is supported. You have been given 2 weeks to learn these new resources and play with them and practice. And if you've looked at your calendar, lots and lots of time to talk to each other and to work. I hope that helps you feel more confident and supported. Please know that not everyone in every district is getting that level of time and support. And I hope that you know it's because we want you to feel successful and we want you to have a great start to your school year. If there's anything else that we can do to support you, do not hesitate to ask. I see nothing else but smiles, a couple mugs up, and some thumbs and some blowing kisses. So with that, blowing kisses back at you, and I want you to have a fabulous rest of your day. And if your department chair and principal are not able to answer the questions that you have, do not hesitate to reach out to Mr. Shearer or myself. Okay? Okay, have a great day. Thank you.